May.
Let's see if I get my phone around here right. There we go. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, citizens of Poth. As the Mayor said, my name is Glenn Mabe, and I expect to see my name on the agenda tonight, but it wasn't there.
My apologies.
That's okay, things happen. Since it wasn't there, I figured I'd come and speak as in the public part of it.
I appreciate it.
And that's because what I have to say I think is pretty important to y'all, the council and department heads. Let me start by introduce myself properly here. To clarify some of the things that I'm going to say, I have to tell you this first. I'm a retired Navy Master Chief. I did 30 years in the Navy. Now, I'm not here to try to get anybody to enlist. And for those of you who are concerned, I'm not the Master Chief off of Halo. Okay? Nor am I here to sell you anything tonight. What I am here to do is to talk to you about some concerns I have. And before I start that, I need to go in a little bit about my background so that you know where I'm coming from. While on active duty, I held the Naval Enlisted Specialty Codes for Disaster Preparedness, Operation Training Specialist, Chemical Biological Training Specialist, and Damage Control Training Specialist. While in the Navy, I was assigned positions such as Training Liaison Officer. I was the fire chief on 4 naval warships, and I was a disaster preparedness officer on a master jet base. So with that background, brings me to the reason why I'm here tonight. To introduce myself, one, and two, to ask the city leaders if you feel the city of Poth is prepared to handle some of the emergencies that may come to your doorstep. Now, some of you probably go like, oh, what are you talking about? About man-made emergencies such as fires, toxic chemical releases, radiological, biological incidences, civil disturbances, workplace violence, or traffic accidents that involve one of the first 3. And the first 3 being the fire, the toxic chemicals, and radiological, biological stuff. How about natural disasters? Floods, earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, wildfires, and a couple of years ago, repeat of winter weather. There are several areas of concern here, and my question is, do you have a written plan to address all of those concerns? Some of you may be saying right now, why do we need a written plan? If you don't have a written plan, how can you do any drills, any preparedness, identify weak parts, correct your weaknesses? The second thing is, you can only defend yourself as a city to what your plan is in writing. You cannot defend anything that is a verbal directive. There's a few cities, and I won't mention them now, that are having issues with those verbal directives, and they're having a pretty big struggle right now. I'm sure most of the city council doesn't want to discuss some of these items in an open forum like this. I'd be willing to make myself available to the mayor, the city council, department heads, and we can discuss them in depth. Does anybody get any questions?
You could do like a workshop kind of thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Addresses. That would be better.
Sure. And I would be willing to do it at no charge for the city of Poth.
That's nice. Why don't you get with Rose about schedule, and we can try to work a workshop.
Yes, ma'am.
And honestly, I had you on my list after the meeting, and we talked about it, and then when we came to finalizing, we had so many things, I honestly forgot. I'm so sorry.
That's all right, I got here.
But I'm glad you came. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Will you leave a number? Can you give Rose your number? And
yes, ma'am.
We'll connect with you, please. Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate your kindness. Okay, consent agenda items. I couldn't find, they looked right to me. Did y'all see anything that I missed?
They look good.
Agreed. I'll make a motion for consent agenda items.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Consideration and adoption of a resolution by the City Council relating to the issuance of sale of City of Floresville, Texas Electric Light and Power System Revenue Improvement Bonds, Series 2022, and other matters in connections therewith.
Hello, Mark Croson, Phelps CEO. I think I've met all of y'all a few months ago. We're here back again tonight because we've got some revenue bonds to support our capital improvement program. This is a 3-year capital program to build new power lines. We have to maintain old ones, replace them. There's a whole lot of capital improvement projects. At Snyder Engineering do a 5-year study, and we identified some areas where we need to improve reliability by increasing our capabilities of our distribution system. So with that, we have a need for these revenue bonds. I've got a lot of support over here. I've got the CFO, Marcy Jacobs. I've got Dusty Trailer with RBC Capital Markets. They'll be handling the bond sale. And Stephanie Libby is bond counsel. Y'all have any questions about any of this? But we've got the resolution in front of you, I believe. It is for $13.5 million, and I guess I'll open it up to you guys. Any questions?
Will the City of Poth have responsibility towards this?
No. And it's through the City of Floresville, and we got their approval. But I'm the new guy, and I'm told that we go to the owner cities and make sure y'all are on board and supportive of what we're doing. So,
I just wanted you to clarify.
yeah.
And where does the bond get paid? Who pays the bond? Who pays, what is it?
Let me get the bond expert up here. See, I knew I needed you.
Thank you. Good evening. Just for the record, I'm Dusty Trailer with RBC Capital Markets. We're the financial advisor for Floresville Electric Light and Power System. The repayment of the debt service for the bonds is solely guaranteed by the monies raised from the net revenues of Phelps Systems. So the ratepayers of Phelps Systems, which includes City of Floresville, Poth, Stockdale, et cetera, et cetera. So the ratepayers.
So when the bond gets passed, then the rates go up? You pay for the...
I
Phelps
can
has
answer that question, but
go right ahead.
no,
Go right ahead.
not at this time. It will not cause an increase in rates.
Okay. They have the necessary rates already established
That's
to
right.
be able to handle this debt service.
Any other questions?
Thank y'all so much for coming. Pardon?
Sorry.
Said no rate increase, what about in the future?
No guarantees on that. I could never promise that, but there are increased costs, that obviously we're all dealing with the supply chain, so I don't know. I can't predict the future, but
You purchase most of the power, right? Is that-
yeah, from CPS Energy.
You have like a long-term agreement with them?
We do for another 2 years, and we also hedge. Natural gas prices are a big driver for the cost of power, and because it fluctuates so much, we're into some pretty sophisticated hedging contracts. That's really the reason we haven't had to raise our rates. And I can't even take credit for that. That was in place by the time I got here, so they really had it all together when I got here. So on the back end of that, we also wanted to present our budget tonight. It didn't make the agenda. Not sure. I don't know if there's a good time, like I can do it right now, or can we?
It would be all right.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure what the agenda says.
It doesn't even on there.
And it says other matters and connections therewith, so that'll be fine.
And Marcy's got that, and I wanted her to talk about it a little bit because it talks a little bit about our capital improvement, a little more about what we're going to do with the system. I think it'd be of interest, and also the payments that y'all get from Phelps. That's always of interest.
That's always helpful.
Yep.
But the only thing we have to make a resolution.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll have, after she finishes, we'll do the resolution. Okay.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing us to come. I just wanted to go over the budget very briefly. I won't take a whole lot of your time, but like Mr. Person said, we did want to go over some of the projects that are in our capital budget for 2023 that will be funded by this bond, as well as some other things that we thought would be of interest to you. The operating capital budgets are a culmination of a comprehensive process that we went through to meet the customer needs while prudently managing our resources. Phelps continues to focus on providing value to our customers while meeting our mission, vision, and core values. The trend for the last couple of years within our service territory has been customer growth, good customer growth, and we're forecasting that to continue to 2020 through 2023. And like Mr. Croson said, that means building lines where they may not already be, or increasing the capacity of lines that are already there. You know, there's subdivisions going around a lot of our service territory, and we may not have the capacity to serve them for the amount of houses they're building, so that's part of our plan. Also, as he stated, one of the most significant factors influencing the operating budget is the volatility and uncertainty in the natural gas prices. Changes in the market could continue to impact fuel prices over the next planning period, which is 2023, but we continue to be proactive in mitigating those impacts while meeting our customer needs for safe and reliable electric service. Another factor that played a key role in the development of our 2023 budgets include increases from outside vendors. As I'm sure you've seen, everything's increasing. The price of all of our outside services, especially for us, the cost of material. In our operating budget alone, we're seeing 37% increases in material, which is usually maintenance items. In capital, in a lot of categories, we're seeing double that. If y'all are paying attention to any of the news, you're seeing that transformers, you know, a lot of the stuff that we depend on to extend service out to customers, that there's long lead times and all of it's gotten really, really expensive. And so we've put all of that into our budget for capital and the parts where it hits our operating budget. Excluding our purchase power, which is something we don't have as much control over. If a customer uses it, we have to buy it and therefore pay for it. But excluding that, our 2023 budget is virtually flat. If you look at where we were for 2022 budget versus our 2023 budget, it's less than 1% increase. So we've done as much as we can to mitigate those increases within the budget itself. In the capital, it's more projects driven. It's not something that we can just, it's not a cost driven. There's a lot of projects in there, and we'll go through those in just a little bit. But overall, we think that we've done a good job balancing those different costs that we have control over. Power sold and other income is forecasted at approximately $51 million, and part of that we're still collecting for Uri. In March of 2021, right after Uri hit, we had to increase our generation and transmission charge to collect for that. And we're going to be collecting that for about 5 years. That balance was huge. It hit every utility, and we're all pretty much doing the same thing. Of our rates, 75% of what we collect goes straight out. It goes for the power that we purchase from our wholesale power provider. So the remaining 25%, it pays for all of our operating and 50% of our capital budget. The other 50% is funded by debt. So the 25% that we collect from our rates funds that portion of both of those budgets. And our goal always with these budgets is to address current and future needs with safe and reliable electric service. Hopefully in front of you, you have our 2023 packet that has the budget, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on there, but I did want to point out a few in each category or each section operating and capital. In 2022, we projected about $20 million in purchase power. Well, we budgeted $20 million in purchase power. Projection is quite a bit over that. Natural gas took a spike during the summer, and so that we're going to exceed that. Our 2023 budget, as Mr. Croson said, we proactively hedged some of that, so we feel good about that. We're not expecting any Uri type events to happen. This is normal weather that we're forecasting within this purchase power. And then through the rest of these categories, you'll see some are up, some are down, but at the bottom line, the total excluding purchase power, if you look at the 2022, it's about $7.23 million, and the 2023 is $7.25 million. So again, just less than 1% increase, and over the projection, it's about $375,000 difference. So virtually a flat budget when you exclude purchase power. The next 3 pages are graphs. You can see of what we collect or what we have in our operating. Most of it is purchase power. And then the other 2 kind of break down all of the categories between our distribution, transmission, customer related, and then the final one is general and administrative categories. On page 6, this is the capital budget And again, as I stated, this is more projects driven, so it's harder to compare one to the other because it's more what projects are we starting, which projects were completed. In 2022, we budgeted about 9.2 million. In 2023, we're budgeting about 11.8, 11.9 million. That's an increase of quite a bit, but again, we've got some very large projects that are going on. If you look at page 9, we can talk about what some of those projects are. Our largest project, which isn't on here, we've already started. Earlier this year, we bid a substation transformer for the Floresville substation, and that is on order and should be received. So we're going to do some work within the substation and add another substation transformer. The transformer alone is $2 million. The work along with it is probably just as much. So that's a huge portion of what this budget is. And then here's some other major projects. We've got some vehicles that we've had slated on order for a while. Now we're getting told that most of these trucks are 4 to 6 years out. Yes, so this may be what we have for a while. Some of the smaller vehicles, no, but the bucket trucks and digger trucks are several years out now if you order them. And then of course there's nothing, now that we have our new facility, we're really not doing anything else with facilities or anything like that. The next page, on page 10, based on that collection through purchase power, our system agreement says that 3% of what we collect through our rates gets transferred to the city, the owner cities of Floresville, Stockdale, and Poth. That excludes what we're collecting for URI because that is debt that we owe at this point. And so you can see that that's right at $1,017,000. The decrease is because the new form of contract that we executed with CPS Energy. For those of you who may recall, a few years ago I came telling you that we were able to take advantage of a new form of contract with CPS Energy and all of our customers' electric bills would drop. And they were able to drop for a couple of months right before URI hit. And that's why there's that decrease, but now that we've had the natural gas prices increase, the city is also seeing that increase as well. So the percentage for Poth for 2020, this will be collected over 2022 into 2023 is about $183,000, and it's split equally over the 12 months. And then the final page, page 11, this is how we roll up in all of the different categories. You can see our power sold and other income or other revenue, and we always budget other revenue very conservatively. We don't want to spend something that we may not collect, which could be fees or interest income, anything like that, is about $51 million. There's our operating and maintenance budget, which includes purchase power. You can see our debt service, which does include an estimate for this bond issue that we came to you for today, our city's payment, and then down below the capital expenditures. And at the very bottom, you can see that 50% is funded by rates and 50% is funded by bonds. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Marcy.
Thank you.
So now I need a motion to adopt this resolution for the bond. There's an example in your packet. Or a motion.
I move that the City Council adopt a resolution relating to the issuance and sale of City of Floresville, Texas Electric Light and Power System Revenue Improvement Bond Series 2022.
I'll second.
All in favor? Discussion and possible action establishing a neighborhood watch crime prevention program. I got a call that the fellow who's doing that, anyway, he's sick, and so he couldn't be here. Pardon?
Bill?
No, yes. But I just wanted to let y'all know that I did a lot of research following, and the neighborhood watch system is not a government-run program. It is neighborhood-run, neighborhood-initiated, neighborhood-joined. Austin has a deal where they won't recognize it as an active neighborhood unless 50% of the neighborhood participates. I don't think we need to worry about that kind of thing. but it is neighborhood driven. So it wouldn't be somebody who lives down Carroll Street worrying about somebody who lives on Plainview, or, you know, it's your neighborhood, it's your neighbors. The whole design is for people to get to know each other and take care of watching for each other, trade numbers, trade keys if you want to, you know, that kind of thing. Let your neighbor know if you're going to be out of town. Just, it's a neat program. So the city, I don't think, has a whole lot to do with that as far as actually promoting it, except to make the police available to meet with them, and they are. And actually, it's the Sheriff's Association that runs it. So many of the contacts are through the Sheriff's Department. But the one thing I think the city could have action on tonight is that we would commit to buying the signs for the neighborhoods that do it. And I looked that up, and the signs are not expensive at all. There's the Crime Watch sign, you know, the blue one with the eye. I ran off some copies. Let's see. And then there's the one that you see with the guy creeping around. And then there's the blue one. I thought I made a copy, but anyway, they run somewhere between anywhere from $27 to $43 a piece. And I think that would be a great way to say, hey, the city is for you, and we want to encourage you to do that. Just come and register with the city after you get registered. And he said that they are registered. The challenge is getting people to all want to commit to participate, and anybody who does something that gets people to commit to participate knows that that's always a challenge. But I just thought if we would make that our next step as far as supporting it, they would maybe, other neighborhoods would maybe want to get involved.
Sure. So we're going to stress, hey, you only patrol your neighborhood and stay out.
That's what this does. This is completely about you're in your neighborhood. It's not a patrol. It's not a. There's other organizations that are like quasi-patrolling things, but this is not that at all. This is just neighbors taking care of neighbors. If you see a car that doesn't look right, you call your neighbor and say, hey, there's a car in your drive that doesn't look right. And then you call the police and say, hey, there's a car in my neighbor's drive that doesn't look right. He says it's not, he doesn't know what it is, you know, that kind of stuff.
Okay, because I know last time Cliff was like, well, we drive around, we look, and I'm like,
well,
that doesn't meet this qualification.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about at all. I'm just talking about Neighborhood Watch and saying that I think that we could show our support of that kind of organization by at least buying their signs. I did talk to the mayor of Floresville, and they do that for the different ones, and they've got 4 or 5 in their town. And because they're not expensive, I just think that would be a real positive thing for us to do. So that would be the only action that we would have to take on this at all. And he said that they have registered. You know, you can do it individually. I joined individually, and just so I could see all the toolkits and all the stuff. There is amazing information. Videos that you could, or I don't know the right term, but videos that you could watch to learn more about what you can and can't do, and then to have a good relationship with law enforcement where they come in and say, hey, just give us a call, that kind of stuff. It's neat. But I would really appreciate a motion that we agree to buy the signs for the registered Neighborhood Watch organization.
I'll make a motion to buy the Neighborhood Watch signs to help promote.
I'll second.
All in favor? Thank you so much. Okay, next is a discussion of possible action concerning awarding of an administrative services contract for the preparation of the city's 2023-24 Texas Community Development Block Grant application and subsequent administrative services contract if funded. And we sent out the, now with the state, you can't just pick somebody that you like who does block grants. You have to send out requests. Would you consider us? And we sent out to 3 different companies, and the only one that responded was Langford, which I was kind of happy about. They're very good. They've done a lot of work in the county. And the last grant provider that we awarded did not do us such a good job. So anyway, they responded. We did all the requirements where you have to grade them, and they came out at 100%. So I would just ask for a motion that we award the bond contract to Langford. They're out of Austin. They've done work for us before. They actually were the ones who got us the park grant, the walking trail grant.
I must overstall that part. What's the grant for, what we're using the grant for?
It is the community development block grant, so it'd be like water and sewer is usually what it
So who
is.
we're working on over here is,
It would probably be what we could use down 541.
okay, so that's what you
And
need.
so it is $500,000. Where's that? And our matching is like 25,000. Pardon me?
350 or 350?
I'm looking, I'm trying to find, I can't remember exactly. I did this a couple weeks ago. Anyway, it's a typical block grant that we've done for years and years and years. The previous one failed us, and that was kind of unusual. We usually would get grants every other year, and that was happening every 2 years. This is a really good company. Well, I can't find how much it is. Oh, okay, so our cost would be $50,000 based on an application of $500,000. So I'm looking for a motion to accept them.
And you said this is for like the sewer and stuff on 541,
Yes.
things like that.
Right. That's usually what these grants are for, sewer, water improvements, streets. Usually if the streets are affected by the sewer and water replacements. And we know that 541, that TxDOT really needs to do a redo on 541, and some of our stuff goes right down the middle of it.
Right.
And we need to do it down both sides. It's very expensive.
Just to help y'all out, there'd be a 6-inch water main line on both sides of 541. One on the north side, one on the south side, alternating blocks for fire protection, fire hydrants, and basically just adding all the services to there's like 70-some houses down 541.
I make a motion that we award administrative service contract with
Langford.
Langford.
All in favor? Dean, I saw that you wanted to say something.
All I wanted to say is, in the city's best interest, they have already put out the plans and had the plans designed for all that work. So when you go to ask for this grant, you can say we've already got plans. You know, they're all signed and sealed by a registered professional engineer and our PLS, so that it should be in the city's favor to get an award like this. So it's an ideal opportunity for the city to go the next step, because quite often when they get into this, well, what do you have in mind? How far is it? You go, here's our plans. And so that's in y'all's best interest. Just wanted to add that as...
I appreciate that. And it's been a number of years since we've been awarded a grant, so that also puts us in, I think, a favorable position.
I think the last one was Snyder Street, was 4 years ago.
Okay, thank y'all. All right, discussion and action, amendment 32 to the traffic ordinance 011888, the North Dixon Street closure during school hours. And
That was voted on last meeting.
well, but this is where we actually have the ordinance concerning it. Yeah, we voted to do it or to participate in it, but this is where we actually put it in the ordinance for the, where it is. That North Dixon Street be closed to through traffic between the southeast intersection of North Dixon and Schneider Street to the northwest intersection of North Dixon and Chamber Street, Monday to Friday, when school is in session during the hours of 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., and that appropriate barriers be installed to designate the closure. And at this point, that will probably be cones.
The school done purchased barricades,
Oh, that's
so they're ready to go as soon as we initiate the ordinance and get the signage up.
okay. And this is going to cover drop-off. So drop-off is before 8 and it's after 3, so it will not, be a problem with drop-off.
So we just need a motion.
Yes, to amend the amendment,
I make a motion that we
amend the ordinance.
amend the ordinance 011888, closing North Dixon Street during school hours.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Ordinance 112122, repealing and replacing an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms within the city limits of Poth. So, we had someone bring to us that it appeared that there were gunshots being fired east of Lysineco. There had been no complaints, there had been no call-ins to the police, reporting gunfire, but there had been that. So we started search, asked some questions, didn't really find anything, till one day I was approached by someone who was a member of the FFA Sporting Clay Club saying, can we see a city limit sign? And found out that where they are shooting, which is just east of Lysineco on Jeff Pollock's property, in agreement with Jeff Pollock and all, that was actually inside the city limits. So in thinking about how do you kind of work with, it's a school project, we approached the legal team, our lawyers, and they said, oh, you can't prohibit a shooting range in the city limits. Oh, so send us that information, which they did, and then help us with an ordinance that would address that. So the chief and his sergeant worked on an ordinance, and we sent it off to our lawyer, and he felt that that was pretty specific and kind of made it more general, so that it's not just tied to the FFA, which is kind of how it was. But so now you have that in your packet, addressing, now therefore it be ordained that the city of Poth, that the area I'm reading the wrong thing, daggone. See, I have all my stuff laid out here. No, this one right here on top. Okay, so prohibit exception. The use and discharge of any firearms within the corporate limits of the city is hereby prohibited, except in the following limited circumstances. When such use and discharge of firearms is by the chief of police and authorized peace officers or the animal control, when such use and discharge of firearms is by members of the Future Farmers of America Skeet Shooting Club in accordance with the National Rifle Association standards under the direction and supervision of a designated adult, and when such use and discharge of firearms is at a sports shooting range as defined in local government code, and that was the Texas law that we found. And the rest of it is just kind of details. But I wanted you to know, just for your information, about the FFA program. It is I's dotted, T's crossed, big time. Mm-hmm. They have to go through the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation to get, they have, let's see, this foundation is the largest youth shooting sports program in the world and administers both the Scholastic Clay Target Program and the Scholastic Action Shooting Programs. So there's insurance, there's background checks, there's, and actually we have a leader here tonight that if you want to even tell us more about what all the children have to go pay insurance, there's a $10 million insurance policy. A parent has to be at every, what else? The parent has to be at every practice.
Would you like us to speak?
Go for it, please. Tell us more about it, because I just think it's really important for us to know how specific, how detailed y'all are in taking care of this.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank y'all for looking this over as well. So, as the head coach, NRA coach, 4-H shotgun coach as well, whenever we got this program together, Byron had it, and then I kind of took it over as the head coach. So with SETP, what we do, we shoot major shoots, we shoot Moy's Way, so sporting plays, we shoot track, we shoot skeet. We've already shot Fort Worth, we're fixing to shoot Houston, San Antonio with these guys. SETP not only covers our insurance, but at the same time with scholarships. With these youth shooting, there are multiple scholarships that we can give out and we can work with, and that's one of the biggest things. Not only for the FFA, it is an FFA chapter program that we're running here, but with that, we have one senior year this year, and that's why I was late. We were in our booster club meeting just a minute ago. So we have one senior shooting this year. We're already deciding what scholarship we're going to give that individual. We'll have 3 next year, and we're just growing as we are right now. We started off last year with 6. We're currently at 21 shooters. So we grew from just enough shooters just to start shooting till now. Then we turn around. I was the only coach last year with the 6. Now we have 3 more coaches. So we have 4 NRA coaches on top of that as instructors as well. So with this program, we move forward. It has nothing to do with myself or the other coaches, but we want parents to come in there. I want parents to come see what's going on. I want the community to see what their athletes are doing, because that's what these are. These are athletes. Because it shows this type of athlete, where you're at mentally with the gun. Okay, you're swinging guns, you're moving guns, you're loaded. This is probably the safest sport compared to anything else. I mean, yes, there is a risk, but at the same time, this is the safest sport with that kid or that athlete with that gun. So that's what I want to push is I want to show these young men and women what it is to actually be mentally focused. I want them to actually see where they can go from there. I want recruiters to see them at shoots whenever we go to Houston, whenever we go to Fort Worth, whenever we go wherever it is, San Antonio. At the same time, I want their parents to see, because all the parents, we get to see what our children do, but whenever they see their son or daughter with a gun and they're shooting plays left and right and they have people approaching them, hey, your kid did great. What do you think about this college? What do you think about that? That's whenever parents are like, holy cow, we know where we're going, right? So that's why I want the parents to be out there. So with our practice, yes, we have 4 coaches. So at any point in time, we'll have 3 on the range no matter what. We will have, the ag teacher can actually take these students. He cannot travel with guns or ammo. That'll be another coach that will travel with guns and ammo. He can take these students with an FFA van or whatever else to whatever shoot. Matter of fact, they got one on December 2nd and 3rd going to Waller, Texas. So they'll go up there as part of the FFA, they'll shoot and they'll come back home that Saturday. They got 2 shoots. The parents get to see that, and we do set up the range. Coaches, kids, parents, we all go out there and we set up the range. And then we put the whole range back together. We've already done grants, just like you are talking right now. So we have 1 grant through Midway USA, which is another way they can get scholarships, but at the same time, it's kind of a donation from them. It's an endowment. So what we do is, what we put into it, we get 5% back. Okay. This year was very small to some, but big to us. It was $514, which is great. It just bought us half a pallet of clays. So that worked out for us. We do have our annual shoot May 6th that actually helps us out as well. So we can buy ammo. So we just purchased a pallet of ammo this weekend. We'll get it in next week. So now at that point, parents and athletes don't have to sit here and buy all their clays. They don't have to sit there and buy all their ammo, because we as a range can actually start pushing forward on it. So that's what we're doing. NRA, I already did an NRA grant, so we can move forward on that with the request that I put in for that. So we do have grants as well. The NRA, SETP, Midway USA, those are big things for us whenever we start getting all this. We're pushing this forward. Any questions, yes, ma'am?
Well, Russell, I really appreciate you addressing it. I just wanted y'all to know, it encouraged us to find out what the law really said about sporting ranges, and so now we know. But it also, I thought it was just something good for y'all to hear about what's going on in the city.
We should have it back in my day.
I wish
Are your competitions strictly shotgun?
Shotgun only. Yes,
Or
sir.
are you doing any kind of pistol competition?
No, sir. There's shotgun only. Largest shot we have is 7.5 out.
Any plans?
Shot.
Any plans to?
No, sir.
No, I'm saying, I think it's a good idea.
Yes.
I do know 4-H has a rifle.
I see those competitions.
But the problem with pistols, you got to be 21 to have it. So I grew up doing that in high school as well, trap shooting, all that. So, but yeah, when we were kids, we wanted to shoot pistol, but the law doesn't allow it.
It does not. Like the mayor said, the 4-H does have 22. So Nathan Richard runs that part. So we do have that for Wilson County.
That was our experience with the kids, and so I asked Byron, I said, well, so what are y'all using to catch the bullets? He goes, it's shot. Okay, silly me. Anyway, yeah, Judge, you had a comment?
Is there any possibility that the range could be open to the public at some point in the future?
Since we're shooting on private land,
Most likely.
we would have to talk to that individual. I'm going to say no on that.
This is kind of a private range, but it's, you know.
And how do you get the coaches? Volunteers or?
So I asked for volunteers, and then with the NRA, our classes were so far out, I kept doing more research. I found some more that are in San Antonio, so that's how I wound up with the 3 that I have. I do have others in the mix to go next. So, but we do have a few coaches. So, but that's how I did it. I mean, like for myself, I'm gonna become an instructor myself. So next month I'm gonna go through an instructor course, so I can start working my NRA and having my own instructor for coaches as well. Because I think that's something that we need in Wilson County. Vice going to San Antonio all the time, or going somewhere else all the time.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it so much. So I need a motion to approve this ordinance.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 112122 to repeal and replace an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms within the city limits of Poth.
Yes, sir.
All in favor? Great, thank you so much. Thanks again, guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Now we have discussion and action ordinance 112222 of the City of Poth, Texas, approving and ratifying the establishment and opening of a public street and designating said street as Creek Street. Okay, so for decades, there has been a lane off of Richter going north, and everyone thought it was private property, just a lane, so we've never done anything about recognizing it as a street. Well, so I get a call from a lawyer in Floresville saying, oh, that's city property because you bought it back in 2000, whatever, when we bought it from the railroad. So now it's our railroad park.
So it's this one.
It's when you go down Mesquite and then it goes across at Klecka.
Right.
It's to the coming back north
okay.
there.
Got it.
And there's about 4 residences, or 3 or 4 residences there already, 3. And so there'll be a little bit to do. We'll have to let the emergency services know that it's a street. The post office will need to know that it's a street. So those places will get a street number. But it's been used for decades. And so in speaking with the lawyers, it was like, well, is this a subdivision? No, it's a city street. So I guess the railroad didn't really care because it was not, they didn't care. And it was used. So we would like to go ahead and make it a city street. Well, in time, we'll pave it. We'll build, but first of all, we'll get a city street sign there so that it's assigned, and then we'll assign numbers through the emergency services and, you know, all those details. But it would just be another friendly thing to do in Poth, and make those properties that are along there sellable. Apparently that's a problem because it's a lane that nobody really knows.
Is it dead end or does it go through?
It dead ends. And I don't know what the property is north of that, Paul, you know, that would maybe be something to
It's a little
pursue.
dirt road there, on the right now.
It's a dirt road, but it kind of ends there at,
I have no tours.
at Peggy's, right? Is that-
Let's keep, the Kutosh.
Kutosh's, where his mom used to live.
Okay,
It did end right before the creek, the Howard Sanders Street.
so, anyway, I would ask for a motion to designate this as a street.
I make a motion, we approve the designation in ordinance 112222 to name it Creek Street.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay. Discussion and possible action amendment number 1 to ordinance 092021, a budget ordinance. This is just where after there was money spent, less money in, money out, you know, blah, 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 making it all balance. We do this every year so that we keep all that straight. At the last page, you see the adjustment of revenue and expenditures for the general fund and the water works fund. And I think it was a $330 negative for the general fund, but we have that in the bank. It's not like we really are $330 in arrears, okay, just so you know. And then we had a huge overage in the waterworks. So I'm looking for a
We're just
motion.
making a motion to approve it. I'm making a motion to approve amendment number 1 to ordinance 092021, budget ordinance.
I second.
All in favor? Thank you. Okay, so we have our reports. Our tax report is here. We're ahead of last year, which is nice for our current collections. That's all good. We have the police department report. He's sick. He called me this morning, not here tonight. So you see that. We have the municipal court report.
I submitted it to each of you, it's on there, the numbers most people are most excited about are the last page, and it's a total of $13,175.30, and then the distribution for which percent is remitted to the state and which is kept by the city.
Thank you very much. Well, figured it out.
We're getting there.
Very good. Thank you. And then back.
Mayor, council. Okay, for the report for October 2022 for the water plant, we produced 11.4 million gallons of water. If you look at 2021, we was right at 10.66 million gallons of water. Average per day was 368,000 versus 324,000 last year. Maximum per day is 656 per thousand to 559 million gallons last year. The minimum gallons per day is 184,000 versus 158 last year. So gallons billed from this month, if you look at the totals that we pumped and the totals that we billed, is a little over 11,139,000 gallons of water. So we're pretty close to non-usage of water. Wastewater plant, we took in 4.5 million gallons of water. This time last year was 4.3. Average per day is 147,000 for average, 140,000 last year. Maximum gallons per day was 356,000 versus 162,000 last year. Minimum per day is 108,000 versus 119,000 last year. If you look at your irrigation, since we sold water to the oil companies, we do not discharge or irrigate any water. We're trying to replenish the ponds, and right now, all 4 ponds are right at 40%. So, I did not realize how much water they took, but they pumped a lot of water, so it's gonna take a while to
And
replenish.
they want us to have more. They like that.
We're slowly working on it, so.
They want us to have
The beauty of it, the beauty is that pond 4 was, well, we're selling the water, but we just don't have enough water to sell, so it's gonna be a stationary pond for them to be able to pull water from another source to pump in there and be able to irrigate. So that's what's good about pond 4. It holds quite a bit of water. You look at the BODs for sewer plant, pond 1 right at 21. BOD pond 4 was right at 17. pH for pond 1 was 8.23. The pH for pond 4 was right at 9.14. So we're looking pretty good there. We have the auger system for the wastewater plant. At this point, it's not installed due to the holidays, and most likely the Christmas holidays. I do not foresee them to come to install it to probably after New Year's in January. So that's gonna see they're trying to play catch up for all the other areas they're trying to install, but we do have it, and we're just waiting for them to come over and bring the crews to try to install it. It's a pretty elaborate system. It's going to do
and that's for taking solids out of the...
Taking solids out of the water before it goes into our drying beds and discharge. So it's going to do really well. On the issue of the cooling towers, we did a makeshift barrier wall with plywood, treated plywood. It has brought the decimals down, so I think we're in the right track. And again, we've got to go with plant fabricators, see if they'll be able to engineer something for us to be able to install and see what it's going to cost to do it. So right now, everybody's trying to play catch up before the first of the year, so I don't foresee for us really doing anything until probably January. So that's pretty much it. As far as signage, I did work with the school. We did drive around with the superintendent, look at the closing Dixon Street, and using their, they bought new barricades and stuff, and it's going to be a work in progress. We're going to tweak it, see how far we can push the barricades out to facilitate and try to shut down as much of the school traffic as we can. So it's going to be gradual and not try to obstruct Steiner Street and others. So pretty much.
So, but in that last conversation, that the ultimate would be to put bollards up.
Yeah.
Right.
That's about $500,000 for that. So I don't foresee that happening anytime soon, and that's going to probably be another grant that they're going to have to probably pursue to try to be able to get that. So yeah, that's the plan, but right now it's going to be barricades, and basically the sheriff department is doing the patrolling to try to prevent traffic from going through there. But we're going to do our part to try to get the signage up, reestablish some of that siding, and try to get the upgrades so our citizens here, the residents here, can be able to understand what the siding is and why we're closing the street. So that's pretty much all I got.
Did y'all meet with Phelps about lights for the baseball field? Did y'all do that?
We met with Phelps for the fields. Basically, they're willing to help us out, but they're like anybody else. They're going to need some kind of engineering, of the planning of how we're going to install them, who's going to install them, and how much they're willing to do. But that part, we got to try to get all our ducks in a row before they would be able to help us out, or see what part they could do. As far as if we can get them stood up and get that, they're willing to help us to hang lights and stuff like that. They won't help. They will not hook up any of the electrical part. They'll do their part to where private facilities such as those that they'll pull it to their transformers, then we gotta pull off them transformers and hire an electrician to install it on the city post. But they're willing to help us out, so it's a pretty good thing, but we need to get some kind of planning or some engineering to see where we put the stuff. And I did talk to Little League about it, and supposedly they're on it to see what they can figure out to do.
Any other questions about?
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. And Reggie Talamontes is attending tonight. He's going to be Buck's replacement. He's been with the city for how many years?
11.
And so he's been Buck's assistant for 11 years, and we're looking forward to him starting in January.
Where you going, Buck?
Cross the street. With Justice of Peace for Precinct 2.
All right.
Taking Judge Kennedy's
He's taking
job.
my spot.
She retired.
Sorry, kind of.
Sort of.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, then we're adjourned. Thank you very much.
See you, Rose.
Yes, sir, I see you. It's nice
Beautiful
seeing
as
you.
ever.
Nice to see